Hey guys, this is a long awaited video. I'm so sorry about the lighting. I'm not loving it either, but I need to film this. So that's what we're doing. I didn't film a March reading wrap up, which that's on me. That is on me. I was busy last month, and then by the time I got around to it, it was like way too far into the month, and I was like, I'm just gonna hold off until the end of this month. So I'm gonna combine them. So today it's gonna be a March and April reading wrap up / what's on my May TBR. Not doing the TBR jar picks my books for the month of May because I've done it the last 2 months and I have not stuck to my TBR literally at all. I've been very much into mood reading, and I have a few books on my radar for the month of May. So I'm just going to talk about those and hopefully I'll be able to get to them. But also, yeah, also it's too far into May to now just film that. So that's that. I want like my reviews so that I can remember some of them because some of them are very from a long time ago. Let me do my little breakdown. So in the month of March, I read 13 books. 8 of them were thriller mystery, 4 fantasy, 1 romance, and my average rating was 4.02 stars. And then for the month of April, I read 15 books with 12 being romance, 2 fantasies, and 1 thriller mystery with an average rating of 4.45 stars. So my total stats are 9 thriller mysteries in the past 2 months, 6 fantasies, 13 romance, and a total average rating of 4.25 stars. I have had so many good books, especially in the month of April. I honestly don't know if there's going to be another month this year that tops it. I really don't. So that being said, let's get right on into it. The first book of March was an audiobook. It was No Exit by Taylor Adams. Basically, this book is about the main character. Oh my God, that got so dark. The main character is driving home to go visit their mom, who is dying, and she gets stuck in a big snowstorm, so she has to pull off to like a rest stop. And essentially, she's one of 5 people, so there's 4 other people in the rest stop. And she notices that there's a girl like trapped in a cage in a van in the parking lot. So basically she's trying to figure out who the van belongs to, why they have a girl. The whole book takes place in one night. I'm not entirely sure how long the book was since I did listen to it on audiobook, but it kind of felt like it dragged out a little bit just because it was literally every single movement and thought and like everything. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like you don't know who you're gonna trust, but then you think you can trust this character, and then maybe something happens and you don't, and like you're trusting someone else. Now figure out who the van belongs to like almost immediately, but then there's just so many other things that happen. I'd say it's more of a thriller than a mystery. But it was good. It definitely was suspenseful. But by the end, I was just like, okay, let's wrap this up. But it was very entertaining. I mean, I listened to the audiobook. It was a great audiobook. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Next book was on my Kindle. It is The Inmate by Frida McFadden. I think that this might be my favorite Frida McFadden book to date. Basically, our main character is a nurse, and she moves back to her hometown and gets a job at a maximum security prison. And in this prison is her ex-boyfriend from high school, who she was the one, like her testimony put him there for murder. You kind of get a warning like right at the beginning of like, you don't know if you can trust him or not, because he has a reputation within the prison, like that the guards and like people just shouldn't trust him. Like he will basically deceive you. Throughout the whole book, you're trying to decide like, is he being truthful, or like should I not trust him? There's a then point of view and then a now point of view. So you do get flashbacks to the night where the murder took place, and you're trying to figure out the actual events of that night. And then also you're trying to figure out, if he's innocent or if he actually did it. I thought this book was literally so good. I gave it a 5. I did give it a 5-star. I loved the ending. The epilogue literally like made it full circle. It was crazy. I literally read it in like a day. It was so good. I just don't even have any other words. Like, you just need to read it. Point blank, period. I feel like if I had put more thought into it, maybe I would have seen where it was going, but I was just there for the vibes and it was good. Like, it was just a really good mystery. Next book was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I finally started the Throne of Glass series. A very short synopsis, if you don't know what it is basically the main character, Selena, is competing to become the king's assassin, which is like the king's champion is what they call it. So she's competing with 12 other people, something like that. 23, not 12. She's competing against 12 other people to win the title of King's Champion. And this book was okay. I had a lot higher expectations for it. I was kind of bored a little bit. I think like the love for this series is just so, like, I don't think it's this book that people love. I think it's the rest of the series that is just so good, but I had a lot of I went in with really high expectations. I was a little bit disappointed. It felt very similar to Powerless by Lauren Roberts, which I know that released last year, so this was out first, but I read that first and I honestly enjoyed that more. Just felt, it just wasn't giving what I thought it would. It was okay. Nothing special. I gave it a 3.5. Also, that does mean I did start with this book, not Assassin's Blade, which we'll get to. Yeah. I'm gonna put these books, you can't even see them all, but next book I read was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This book is essentially Criminal Minds, but make it YA. It's just about a group of teenagers who are naturals, and in this case, our main character, Cassie, is a natural profiler. So she also has a history of her mom is missing / I think legally dead, even though they never found her. And she wants to, like, she has a personal interest of trying to figure out what happened to her mom. But then also this group of other, like, there are other abilities that these teenagers have. And they're all living together. They're, like, training, like, getting trained to like hone in their skills, I guess, and like essentially help solve cold cases. That's like their whole point of the program. It was really good. There's a little bit of a love triangle. Didn't expect that. I didn't know that there was gonna be like a romance at all, but I'm very, very interested in continuing this series. I do have Killer Instinct. I don't have that on my like May TBR, but it is like, it's in my mind. Like, I really loved this book. It was such a quick read. Like, it is YA, so it was just like so fast. This is my first Jennifer Lynn Barnes book, and it was so good. And also there's like some found family, not as much in this book, but I know in general there is found family within this series. I gave this book a 4. Then I listened to Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. This book is about a couple, I forget their names, Kate and Jack. I know Jack is the guy. The female main character has a sister who has autism, and that is like a very prominent part of the story because she's technically her legal guardian, I believe. But this couple got married, has been married for about a year, and they're always together. They're seemingly like the perfect couple. But you get an insight about what's happening behind closed doors, like what's happening in their marriage. I don't really want to say much else because it's just like one of those where it's like you just have to go into it, see what's happening. Like, that's the best way I can say it. You kind of find out like what the situation is, then you also go back in time and like are seeing how it got to that point in their, like how they got to that point, how they are in their relationship at that point. I hope that even made sense. I don't even know. But yeah, it was good. 4 stars. It was just like a solid, kind of like a mystery. You were like, how is this gonna end? And then I read Caraval. So the first book in the Caraval trilogy by Stephanie Garber. Caraval is a YA fantasy where people get invited to compete in a game, which is Caraval. And this year you get the prize of 1 wish. How Caraval works is like, you're not supposed to trust anything you see because none of it like might be real. Like you don't know what's real and what's not, so you're not supposed to really trust anything. In this season, the main goal is to find main character's sister at the end of the game. And then if you find her first, you win the prize. This was really good. I really enjoyed this. I know that it's not like people's favorite, but I very much enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. It was cute. It was white. It read so fast. Like I was just invested. I was like, I wanted to know where she was, and I don't understand this because it is like magical. It's a magical game. So it's just like, you can't really trust anyone. I do want to read the rest of the series, and the way that it ended, it definitely set it up for the second book, which I think I'm going to be more interested in the second book. So that's a good sign. 4 stars. Then I listened to Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. And I gave this 4.5 stars. There's different point of views, but essentially there's like 3 people who go missing from this one town within a few weeks of each other. One's like a mother, one's her daughter, and then one's just this random other girl, like this other woman. 11 years later, the daughter shows back up. Like she's found. She's like explaining what happened, but she also doesn't really remember anything. It's just like all a mystery, and then you're not really sure if it's all connected or if these are all different incidences of missing people. You follow now, but then there's a few point of views that you like go back before they all went missing. But like I said, I listened to the audiobook and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think it was like a really quick, enticing audiobook. Then I read Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. This is the second book in the Throne of Glass series, so I'm not really gonna say much. All I remember really is that the ending was kind of crazy. Like I didn't see the ending coming. Not anything special. Again, it was a good book. It was just like not anything special. It was good, just a solid book. The ending definitely helped bump it up a little bit, so I gave this 4 stars. I have the physical book, but I listened to this, The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I gave this 4.25 stars. Honestly, I might even like round it up to a 4.5. This book was so good. I was a little bit nervous because I'd heard not the best things from someone I know. Basically, there's 5 different point of views. You have the bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid. And there's a murder that occurs at the wedding. You're trying to figure out, so you get the timeline of right after the murder happens, but then you also get the timeline of the day leading up to the wedding. You're trying to figure out not only you don't know who was murdered. So you're trying to figure out both who was murdered and how all these people are like connected to it, like how they all have a motive. All their stories just seem so disconnected. So like you're finding out all these things about these characters and like backstories, but you're not understanding like how it's relevant. Like you're going back to like years ago for some of them. And then you're like, how is this relevant to a murder? But like it all ties up and it's all relevant and it's so good. Like it was so good. I honestly probably would give this a 4.5. I definitely recommend this. And also it's literally on like a remote island. There's not that many suspects. Then I read The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. This is the novella / novellas. There's like 5 different novellas in here, but it's all obviously in one book. You could either read this first, third, or fourth. I read it third, and I'm so happy I did because essentially this is like the prequel for Throne of Glass. Like this is everything that leads up to the first book, but I enjoyed reading it third because you got to know the character a little bit, like the main character Selena, and then this is like her backstory. You understand certain things, but you also learn more about her. And I think if I had read this first, I just wouldn't have felt as connected to it as I did when I read it. Like I just don't think I would have cared about her story as much because like I wouldn't have known her character, you know, like I wouldn't have cared. And I gave this a 4 star. It was just a good book. Like, and also since they were novellas, like a lot happened. Like these tabs, like I don't really know, but a lot happened in this book compared to I felt like the first 2, just because you did get so much background and there was like introduction characters, you got some things explained. And I finished listening to First Light Wins by Ashley Elston. This I started on my Spotify listening to the audiobook back in February, and then I ran out of time. I was put in Spotify jail, so I had to pick it back up like in the end of March. The main character, Evie Porter, is on like a job, but you don't really know what her job is or like why she's there. And you get, it's dual timeline, so you get her currently, and then you also get her leading up to this, like how it became her job. And the thing about this that's very interesting is like you don't know what the end result is. Like in the guest list, you know like that someone's murdered and like you're trying to figure out how to, but this one is like very like it's more mystery because you're just like, where is this going? You're like, what is the point of telling me this story? So you're kind of trying to figure out that while also hearing about so much. Definitely keeps you on your toes for that. I say for towards the middle, it was definitely a little bit slow. And I think I listened to the first 60% before I got into Spotify jail, and I was starting to really get into it, but then I couldn't keep listening to it. And then I had to wait a month to pick it back up and finish it. So I definitely think that hindered the rating, which is like not fair to the book, but I still think like it was a fair rating. I gave it a 3-star because the ending was so good. I didn't see it coming at all. And like, I didn't think that that's how it was going to wrap up by any means, but it was just a really, really good, it was just a really good ending. I definitely would recommend it. I think there's a potential for it to be rated higher. It's just like the fact that I had to wait a month in between. I think that that was not like, didn't do the best, because then it was hard to get back into it because I was like, I don't even remember what was happening. And then, okay, the last book that I read for the month of March was Powerless by Elsie Silver. I read this on my Kindle. This is the third book in the Chestnut Spring series. It has to do with Jasper, who is a hockey player, and Sloane, who is the cousin of the, I don't even remember what their family name is, the Eaton family, who is a cousin of the Eaton family. And Jasper is like their like adopted brother, but like not brother. And basically it's friends to lovers. She was supposed to get married, runs out on her wedding. He's just there and they kind of reform a connection. I gave this a 4. It was not my favorite in the series, but it was good. I didn't care about them as much. We did get a hint of the couple for the next book, for the 4th book, Reckless. And I loved that because that set it up. So I was like, oh my God, I need to read this like immediately. And I did read it pretty early on in the month of April. It was a good book. Like Elsie can do no wrong. It was just not my, like, I wasn't as invested in those characters as I am other characters. Moving on to my April reads, I read Icebreaker. So, okay, Powerless is a sports romance, because he's a hockey player, Jasper is. April was low-key a month of sports romances for me. Let me like count how many. I read like 6 sports romances and all but one of them were hockey. I don't know why, because I feel like they're also like all the same, but I was just in the mood for like some quick, like good romance reads, and it's just like you can't really go wrong with a sports romance, I feel like, for the most part. Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This was such a good book. The communication, the banter, like their connection was just so good, and they also understood each other so well, and it was just so cute. He's very much like golden retriever. I loved it. Like it was such a fast read. I definitely tabbed like a lot. Like it was just so good. There also wasn't like a lot of plot to this. It was mostly just character and like interactions. I picked back up, I DNF'd Behind the Net back in like January or February. So Behind the Net I gave that a 4.5. I don't think I said that. But I picked up Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. I think I was like 25% of the way through. Essentially this book was about Jamie, who was a professional hockey goalie, and then Pippa, she's like into music, moves back home to Vancouver where Jamie plays, and then gets a job as his personal assistant. And they went to high school together, and they both had crushes on each other, but they didn't even like know that the other person knew they existed. In like real time, like in the current timeline, they don't think that the other person knows who they are, like doesn't remember them from high school. And he was like, I was in love with her in high school. And like, she's like, he was this hockey star. Like, he doesn't remember me. Like, I was a nobody. I felt like he didn't really have much of a personality at first, but he was very like protective of her. Like, kind of got jealous. For some reason, this book was just way too long. I don't even know how many pages it was. It was just way too long for me. I felt like I didn't really care. Also, for me, music in books, like if somebody's singing, it kind of cringes me out, and that's what she did because she was like a musician. Not my favorite. That part I didn't love. I gave it a 3-star. Next, I finished Heir of Fire. So this is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series. That's all I'm gonna say. It was good. There was definitely a little bit more action in this. I definitely tabbed a lot. Again, I don't know. Like, I think that people's love for this series has to come after this, because I'm still not entirely like obsessed with it. I don't like, that's literally all I have to say. I'm not obsessed with it. It's good, but like thinking about ACOTAR, I just like love that book, like series so much more, and I feel so much more connected to the characters. And in here, I'm just like, maybe it's a personal problem. I'm not sure. This was a 4-star. It wasn't bad. I mean, her writing's good. Like, her stories are good. It just... Then I read Reckless by Elsie Silver. You guys! First of all, I have so many 5-stars this month. You're just gonna wait and see. But this book was like an immediate 5-star. This is about Winter and Theo. Theo is Rhett's... Like, Rhett is like Theo's like coach for bull riding, and Rhett is from the first book, and Summer is also from the first book. So it's Summer and Rhett, and then Winter is her sister. Everything about this book, I literally want to marry this book. I want my own Theo. This is like my absolute all-time favorite Elsie Silver book. I think this is one of the more underrated of the series. I know a lot of people like Heartless the best and Hopeless, but Theo, oh my God. I can't even say enough. I can't say enough good things. Then I finished Ward D by Frida McFadden. I read this on my Kindle. This book is about a med student is on her psych rotation, and she has to stay overnight in Ward D, which is like this super sketchy, like old psych ward. And there's also a girl that she used to be best friends with in high school who is in the psych ward, and she kind of was not the reason that she went there, but like a little bit the reason. This also takes place within like literally a night. It was hard for me to get into it, and for a Frida McFadden book, I feel like that's not usually the case. It was just like a little bit hard to get into it, but the end, I kind of guessed like certain things about the ending, but then like the absolute end, or maybe it was like the epilogue, I don't entirely know, I did not see that twist coming, and I was like a little bit like, and that definitely bumped it up. I probably would have given it like a 3 stars. Like, it's a Frida McFadden book. It's not bad, but the ending was really good. I gave that a 3.5. The next book I actually listened to was The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I loved this book. Everything about it was just like so fun. It's essentially a Groundhog Day trope, which I'm not a fan of. But Emily is reliving Valentine's Day like over and over and over again, and she can't break the loop. She wants like the perfect Valentine's Day. She wants to tell her first boyfriend that she loves him, and everything that can possibly go wrong just goes wrong. And she keeps running into the main guy character, Nick. Like, I don't even really want to say anything else. I gave it a 4.5. I listened to the audiobook, and the audiobook was like 8 hours. I think I listened to it on like 2x speed. I literally listened to it in like on a car ride, and it was like a 4-hour audiobook, and it was just really great. I loved the audiobook. I loved Better Than the Movies, and this was another really good one. So I definitely want to continue to read more of her Painter's romances, because I just love them. They're just like wholesome and cute. Next book I read was The Night Shift by Annie Crown. I read this on my Kindle. It is a basketball romance, and the main character, who I don't know their names, I'm gonna be honest. The girl works the night shift at the library, and the guy's on like the star on the basketball team. He goes in one night and like needs her help for something. things happen, and then it continues. It was just like a really light and fluffy. It was like no brainer. I'm pretty sure I saw that it might have been on Wattpad, potentially. It wasn't like the best written, and it wasn't like the most intriguing book I've ever read, but it was good for what it was. Like, if that's what you want, like a brainless, like just good romance that's super fast, like that's literally that, I would totally pick it up. It was like that's what I expected it to be, which is why I gave it 4 stars, because I'm like, if I wanted more out of it, like I wanted more depth, I wouldn't have read that book. I read The Play by Elle Kennedy. I also read this on my Kindle. This is a hockey romance. This is the 3rd book in the Briar U series. It was Hunter Davenport and Demi. I loved Hunter. If you know anything about the Off-Campus or Briar U series or Elle Kennedy's writing, like, it's usually pretty spicy. This book was like not very spicy, but in the best way possible. It was definitely like less extreme than the other books. And it felt like there was like a really good connection, and the banter was just great. It just followed Hunter and Demi, and it was their story, and it was just so good. And since it was like Friends, it started out Friends, like that's also why I think I just loved it, because it was less just like surface level. It was less surface level than some of the other books of hers that we've read, or that I've read in the series. 5 star. 5 star. Oh my God. This book, I don't even have this book with me because I lent it to my mom. But this next book, I don't even have words. Oh my God. Did I forget a book last month? I did. Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I can't believe I forgot this. This book was okay. Listened to it on audiobook. I think I gave it a 4 star. I honestly could even round it down. There was a lot happening in this book. Pip is essentially just trying to solve this girl's disappearance from her town from 5 years before. It's for like a school project, like as an investigative journalism project. The girl who went missing, her boyfriend ended up killing himself because he was like found guilty or whatever, like days after she went missing. So everyone just assumed he killed her, and like he was blamed for it, but the main character doesn't think that he did it. So she's trying to clear his name, but then also find out like what really happened to her. So you follow that, and it's like the format of it was cool to listen to. Like there were so many different voices, like different like interview style, work entries, like of her like logging her project and like all of that stuff. I don't know. It felt like at some point I was like, okay, like I'm ready to like just hear about this. I think if I had read it, it would have felt a lot longer than listening to it. Okay. Back to this other book. I can't even prepare myself. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez this might be one of my new all-time favorite books. Oh my God. Oh my God. Basically, the 2 main characters, Emma and Justin, have the same problem where they date someone, and then that person, once they break up, that person goes and finds like their true love. Like they marry them, and that's who they're with. They're still not finding their true love, but then they're like, maybe we can break this like curse by dating each other and then breaking up, and then we'll find our own true loves. There's just like so much more happening, and there's so many more things going on, but that is like the bare bones of what this book is. And it was incredible. It was incredible. This is my first Abby Jimenez book, and I ate it up. I read it so fast. I need to read like all of her other books now, but I honestly don't even know if they're gonna hold a candle to this. That's literally all I have to say. I cannot express in any other way how good it was. You just need to read it. And Justin was everything. He's like quite literally the epitome of if he wanted to, he would. And they even say that in the book. Like Emma and her best friend like literally even say that. Like it's just, and their banter, their communication, like it was literally the perfect book. Next book I read is The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer. This was the second book in the Vancouver Storm series. So the first one was Behind the Net. This is the second one. So the main characters were Rory. I honestly forget the main girl character, but it's the sister of Pippa from the first book. And they were just so good together. Like they also went to the same high school, and she actually tutored him. He's always had a crush on her. She always had a boyfriend. That boyfriend actually gets traded to be on their hockey team as well. So that's like another element to this dynamic. And there's fake dating. It was literally so good. I love Rory Miller. My comment on Goodreads was literally, I want my own Rory Miller. Like I can't even explain it. He's just like so direct. He could communicate, and he was just like so like, everything about him was amazing. So that was also a 5-star. Next book is The Dare. This is the 4th and final book in the Briar U series. This followed Connor and I don't remember the girl's name. I'm not gonna I only care about these men. If we're these book boyfriends are everything. I only remember Connor. This book was pretty good. Connor had such a great personality. They had a really good dynamic, but there was like a really weird subplot about like his best friend from back at home that I didn't care for. And I know it was supposed to be like character development for like him and like add to the plot, but like I just did not like that. And I think that's why I gave it a 4.5 instead of a 5, because it was honestly really good. Otherwise, there was some fake dating. Really good book, but that just really took away from it. I was just like really not a fan. And I read The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. Yet another 5-star. You guys, when I say this is the best reading month, this was literally the best reading month. I've never read a Sarah Adams book. This is another sports romance. Oh, I didn't even count this. So I read like 7 this month. This is football, and Derek and Nora are college exes. He is a very famous tight end, and she is now a sports agent, and she is becoming his agent. He's holding a grudge over like her breaking up with him in college. They're both still utterly in love with each other, but so he's trying to make her job like as miserable as possible, and she's just trying to thrive in like a male dominated field. And he's like her first real client, so she like really doesn't want to mess it up. The thing that I loved about this book so much was like she's very into puns and like one-liners and whatever, but she's like very quirky, and at first I didn't love it, but then it like really grew on me. Like her personality was just so funny, and he loved like that she was so quirky and like would say these things. And like the thing with like the puns is like, I don't even have a good example, but like it would be like, oh, saying like the early bird gets the worm, but she would like completely butcher it, but like it was like intentional. And he like loved that about her. And it was like the further in I got, like even just like things she was saying that weren't necessarily funny, like just based on like her character and her personality, it made it like funny. I loved it. So I immediately also went and got the cheat sheet, because that's the book that technically like is before this, but it's like a companion novel. Because you see the character or the couple in this book. It was just so good. Then I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I read this starting the day it came out. And I read it in like 2 days, not even. Miles and Daphne are both in the same boat because they're exes. So Daphne's ex-fiance and then Miles' ex-girlfriend are childhood friends, and they decide to get together and like leave Miles and Daphne, and they get engaged. And then Miles and Daphne moves in with Miles because she's in this new town where like she moved with her fiance at the time and doesn't know anyone, doesn't have a place to live, like all of that stuff. And he was like, you can be my roommate. And it just starts with like a friendship because they're both in a very unique situation. There's a little bit of fake dating. He's really just trying to show her the town and like be like, you can be happy here not being with your ex. Like it's not just his town. Like there's all these things that you need to explore. So I felt really connected to the characters. And you could definitely like see their development both like with each other, but also like by themselves, because like there's obviously a lot of like things happening post breakup, and it just moved at such a good pace. Like I was never bored. I like live for Emily Henry's writing. 5-star yet again. That was my last one for the month. Don't you worry. No more 5 stars. I know it seems a little ridiculous. I don't even know if this is gonna stay up. I picked up Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This is the first book in the Rose Hill series, which, by the way, she already announced the second book. It's coming out in September. I'm really excited because I know exactly who the couple is. This is essentially about Ford and Rosie, who are childhood frenemies. That's the best way to put it. It's literally frenemies to lovers, like the definition of it. And Ford is a billionaire. It's also the brother of Willa, who is the love interest in the second book of the Chestnut Spring series. So it's not taking place in the same town or anything or with the same family, but it's still in the same timeline and the same world as Chestnut Springs. Ford is Rosie's brother's best friend, so it's brother's best friend. She gets fired from her job, moves out of the city back to Rose Hill, where she grew up, and then gets a job working for Ford at his music production company. And it was definitely a slow start for me, for sure. I kind of was like not loving it for the first like 100 pages maybe, but then it really picked up. Like I understood their connection a lot better and I really liked it. Ford just like would literally do anything for Rosie. But he's also very direct. Like it's just like so many things I loved. And they talk about banter. They had banter. I gave it a 4.75 because it was a slow start at the beginning. I didn't feel as connected to the characters as I was hoping right away, but we got there. We got there. Last book for my wrap up, and then I have my TBR, which is going to be very quick. Powerful by Lauren Roberts. This was the novella for Powerless. You need to read it. This takes place at the same time, the same certain events, but you just get, it's Peyton's best friend Adina, her point of view and her story. It was short and sweet. I literally read it in a day. It's like 220 pages, but like this is a small book. This is like an average like hardback book. Like it's tiny. It was so good. I miss Lauren Roberts' writing. I might have to reread Powerless before Reckless comes out in July. Heartbreaking. Oh, I gave that a 4 because it is a novella. If it was longer, immediate 5. Like it would have been a 5. On to my May TBR. This is going to be really quick. I'm currently reading Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home. I have about 120 pages left. Low-key, I'm going to try to finish it tonight. If not, I'm literally going to finish it by tomorrow. But I thought I'd include it because it's like I'm currently reading it and it's obviously like was on my mind of something I want to read. I don't know if I want to read this right after, but Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. I want to catch up to at least finish this so then the following month I can maybe read Magnolia Park's Into the Dark, but I want to catch up. And then I kind of took a break. As you guys could tell, I took a break from Throne of Glass series because it's just not giving for me right now. I'm like 10 or 11% of the way through this. I don't actually know because I did download it on my Kindle. I've been reading it on there. But this book, I really want to finish this. It's like 600 something pages, 650 pages. Hopefully I can finish this. I'm not going to try to even start the tandem read. After I finish this, I just want to finish this so that I can continue the series. Like I'm not trying to put pressure on myself though, because I'm already not loving it as much as I thought I would. I don't want to make it like worse for me, you know? I started this book literally so long ago and I'm on page like 45. The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I wanted to read this for months and then I finally got it. And then when I did get it, I'm not into it. I picked it up twice and I tried to listen to the audiobook on Spotify, but then I could not deal with that narrator's voice. My hold just came through on Libby and it is a different narrator. So I am praying that I will finish this. I think that the background that we're just getting, it's like moving too slow for me. I really want to finish this because I've heard such good things. So I'm going to listen to the audiobook. I have to do it in the next like week or so. And if I don't finish it on there, it's not happening. It's not happening. I've DNF'd this like 3 times now. Then I have Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is the 5th and final book in the Chestnut Spring series. This is Beau's story and I believe Bailey, who we meet throughout. We get introduced to her in the first book actually. Seems like there's some fake dating. I did start this. I only got a few pages in and then I put it down because I was just not in the mood to read this, but I do want to finish this series this month if I can, so I'm gonna try. Even though I said I'm not in a big fantasy mood right now because of Throne of Glass, I want to pick this up and read this. Like, honestly, I might read it next, like, because I have, as you guys saw, the last 2 months, I read a lot of thriller and mysteries, and then this past month, I read a lot of romance, and I just need to change it up a little bit. I think I'm getting a little bit, that's why I did pick back up Magnolia Parks. I'm like, it's a romance, but it's not your typical romance. This, I've been wanting to read this forever also, so I think I'm gonna start this, honestly, once I finish Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home. I think I will pick this up because it's gonna be a nice change of pace. Last book that is on my radar for the month of May is gonna be The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. Again, this is a different genre. It's like historical not fantasy, historical fiction. So, and I've heard like nothing but good things about this book. I'm gonna try to pick this up and read this. This month, is it YA technically? I don't think so. The writing looks pretty big. I know it's pretty thick still, but I'm very excited. So that, oh my God, you guys, this was like the longest video. This is literally, it took me forever to film. My voice hurts. That is my March and April reading wrap up / May TBR. Kind of just what's on my radar. The fact that I had 7 5-star reads is insane, and one was like 4.75 and I had a couple 4.5s. Like, that's crazy. That is all. Please comment down below your thoughts on any of these books. If you've read them, I'm definitely very interested. It was a really long video, so thanks for sticking with me. Definitely subscribe if you want to see more book content in the future. I hope you guys have an amazing reading month in May. I have very high hopes. That's all for today's video. I love you guys, and I will see you next time.